The scent of damp earth and freshly trimmed grass usually soothed me, but that morning another smell intruded. Sharp exhaust fumes. The peaceful hum of a Saturday morning was shredded apart by the aggressive whine of a dirt bike tearing through the neighborhood. I stepped outside, coffee steaming in my hand, intending to admire the cool breeze and check on my rose bushes. Instead, I froze at the porch steps. Sitting dead center in my meticulously maintained front lawn was an orange dirt bike, mud dripping from its frame, its thick tires grinding ugly black scars into the grass I had nurtured like a child for 3 long years. Propped casually against the handlebars was Jake Martinez, the 17-year-old son of Karen Martinez, our iron-fisted homeowners association president. His arms were crossed, his posture cocky, his face carrying that insufferable grin of a teenager who believed rules didn't apply to him. The smug look radiated arrogance, the kind that made my blood run hot. "What's the issue, mister?" Jake called, smirk widening, voice dripping entitlement. "My mom runs the HOA. What are you going to do about it?" I'd been a resident of Willowbrook Estates for 5 years, and in all that time I'd never caused so much as a ripple. I followed every single HOA guideline as if they were sacred law. My house was painted in the regulation-approved palette. My mailbox stood at the exact required height and design. My lawn was mowed and edged with surgical precision, looking like it belonged on a professional golf course. I paid dues early, combed through the entire 57-page handbook like it was scripture, and never once parked my car more than 12 inches from the curb. Karen Martinez had been president of the HOA for 3 excruciating years, ruling with the zeal of a perfectionist tyrant. She measured grass with a ruler, issued fines for trash cans set out 20 minutes early, and nitpicked the color of porch decor. Everyone knew her. Everyone feared her. And everyone whispered about her son Jake, who was notorious for being a nuisance. He ripped through the walking trails on that dirt bike, tore across the common areas, and once did donuts right next to the children's playground. But until this morning, he'd never dared cross the line onto private property. "You need to move that bike off my lawn right now," I said evenly, gripping my coffee mug so tightly my knuckles whitened. "You're tearing up my grass," Jake barked out a mocking laugh. "It's just grass, man. Relax. My mom writes the rules around here, not you." He gave the rut beneath his boots an extra stomp, deepening the damage, then added with a sneer. "Besides, maybe you should worry less about me and more about that violation notice you got for your trash cans last week." That afternoon, I sat at my desk and carefully drafted a formal complaint to the HOA board. I attached time-stamped photos, logged every detail, the exact hour Jake showed up, the placement of the tire tracks, even the measurements of each groove in the soil. I followed protocol to the letter, uploading everything through the online portal. At the very least, I expected an acknowledgement. The following morning, Karen's response landed in my inbox like a slap across the face. "Dear Mr. Thompson," it began, "after reviewing your complaint regarding my son's alleged behavior on your property, I find your accusations to be baseless and bordering on libel. Moving forward, I strongly recommend exercising extreme caution when making such inflammatory claims about board members' families. This behavior will not be tolerated. Perhaps your focus would be better spent on maintaining your own compliance with HOA standards." It was signed, of course, with the superiority she carried like a crown. Karen Martinez, HOA president. The days that followed only grew worse. Jake doubled down. Every morning I woke to new damage, deeper ruts gouged into my grass, patches of sod shredded, even footprints trampling through my flower beds. On Wednesday, he parked just outside my kitchen window, revving the dirt bike engine relentlessly for nearly a full minute, the vibrations rattling the dishes in my cupboards while I tried to eat breakfast. By Thursday, I had no patience left. I confronted him again. "Jake, this has to stop. You're destroying my yard. Do you realize it'll cost me hundreds to repair this?" He tilted his head, eyes glinting with mock innocence before laughing. "Hundreds of dollars? If you weren't such a cheapskate, maybe you'd have nicer grass to begin with. My mom says you're a drama queen, always looking for problems." That night, I reached my breaking point. I drove straight to the electronics store and bought a compact, weatherproof security camera. After testing it, I mounted it discreetly, near my front window, angled perfectly to capture every inch of my lawn. If Karen wanted to brush off my complaints, I'd hand her something even she couldn't deny. Cold, undeniable evidence. That little camera was already worth every penny. Friday afternoon, Jake showed up again, this time with two of his friends, in tow. For nearly an hour, my front yard became their personal dirt arena. They whipped out wheelies, spun wild donuts, and carved deep tracks, while their laughter echoed loud enough for the whole block to hear. At one point, Jake skidded dramatically across the center of my lawn, ripping out a full patch of grass before standing on the seat to take a mocking bow toward my front door. I didn't panic. I didn't yell. Instead, I transferred every second of that footage onto my computer, made multiple backup copies, and even stored it in the cloud. The video was crisp, undeniable. Jake and his buddies vandalizing my lawn with smirks plastered on their faces. Sending it to Karen would have been useless. I knew she'd only dismiss it. So I skipped the HOA entirely. Saturday morning, I called the non-emergency police line and filed an official report. To my surprise, the officer on the phone, Sergeant Rodriguez, actually sounded intrigued. "We've had a few complaints about this kid, small stuff, but if you've got video, that changes things." Not even 2 hours later, a squad car rolled into my driveway. Sergeant Rodriguez stepped out with Officer Kim beside him, both calm, professional, and carrying notepads. Inside, I showed them the footage on my laptop. Their expressions grew steadily more serious as the video played. "This is clear destruction of property," Officer Kim said firmly. "And since he's been warned before, we can press criminal mischief charges." Almost on cue, the dirt bike's familiar roar echoed down the street. Jake barreled toward us, oblivious to the patrol car parked in my driveway. When he finally noticed the flashing lights, his grin faltered. He tried to slow down, but Sergeant Rodriguez stepped into the street, holding up a hand. "Jake Martinez!" the sergeant called. Jake froze like a deer caught in headlights. Yeah, that's me," he stammered, his cockiness gone. "We need to talk about property damage and criminal trespass," Officer Kim said, pulling out her cuffs. Jake didn't fight. He didn't even speak. He stood frozen as she cuffed his wrists and read him his rights. By then, neighbors had already begun trickling out of their houses. Mrs. Chen gasped behind her hand on the porch. The Johnsons dragged lawn chairs onto their driveway like it was a neighborhood performance. And then came Karen, charging down the sidewalk in her bathrobe and slippers, red-faced and shouting like the world was ending. "What are you doing to—" "My son!" she screamed. "You can't arrest him! I'm the HOA president! I know my rights!" Sergeant Rodriguez didn't even blink. "Ma'am, your son is under arrest for criminal mischief and trespass. Your position with the HOA doesn't exempt him from state law." Karen was shaking with fury. "This is a setup. That man," she jabbed her finger toward me, "has been targeting us. He should be the one in handcuffs." Officer Kim shut the cruiser door with Jake inside, then faced Karen with a warning glare. "We have video evidence of your son repeatedly damaging private property. If you continue interfering, you could face obstruction charges." Karen's mouth opened, but nothing came out. The damage estimate was later totaled at over $800, and Jake was officially charged with criminal mischief in the 3rd degree and criminal trespass in the 2nd. Karen tried to fight it, hired an expensive lawyer, threw every excuse she could think of, but it didn't matter. Jake ended up taking a plea deal, 40 hours of community service, 18 months probation, and full restitution for the lawn repairs. But the final blow came 2 weeks later. The HOA called an emergency board meeting at the community center. Word of Jake's arrest had spread like wildfire, and nearly the entire neighborhood showed up. Board members carried printed police reports and copies of the photos. Patricia Wells stood and addressed the room. This reflects poorly on our entire community. We cannot have a president who enforces rules on everyone else but ignores them in her own household. Karen tried to fight back. She accused me of fabricating evidence, claimed Jake was innocent, even suggested I had doctored the video. But her voice cracked, her story unraveled, and no one believed a word of it. The vote was unanimous. Even Mike Foster, her most loyal supporter, turned against her. Karen's face flushed crimson as her chair screeched backward. "You'll all regret this," she shouted, wild-eyed. "I'll sue every last one of you. This isn't over." But the threat rang hollow. There was no lawsuit, no fight. Within 3 months, Karen Martinez quietly packed up and left Willowbrook Estates. And for the first time in years, the neighborhood was calm again, peaceful, united, and finally free of her rule. Like that dose of neighborhood justice? Don't forget to hit like if it made you smile and subscribe for more real stories of revenge, HOA battles, and entitled people finally getting what they deserve. Got a story of your own? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear it.